ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Stay tuned for another original Studio B production right here on the Voice 17104.com.
Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to the Richard James Show on 17104, The Voice.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome, my friends, to the Richard James Show. We are very, very blessed today, totally blessed. We have the distinguished Reverend Dr. Nathaniel Gadsden that will be our guest today. Welcome, Dr. Gadsden.
Thank you for having me, Brother James. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. And this is a special time. It's right, Brother Gaskin, as we know, is the creator, producer, and host of the Writer's Workshop. And he has a new book out, a new book. Reverend Gaston has been published for many, many years and broadcast for many years. Reverend Gaskin, give us the title of your book, your new book, sir.
In Search of the Beloved Community.
And Search for the Beloved Community. I love that name. Reminds me of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King,
Absolutely.
raising up the beloved community. Can you give us an idea of exactly the content of your book and the emphasis, the purpose?
So I liken the book as a memoir, a short memoir of my journey to become a poet and to create the Writer's Workshop. And I talk about the effect that Dr. King had on my life, his philosophy of nonviolence, and also the fact that he was a minister in the church. The way he led his life greatly impacted me. I was born in 1950, so I experienced the 60s, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that tumultuous time when we were in the era of the new civil rights movement. And so we had a lot of options, with the Black Panthers and the, Black Muslims and all kinds of other organizations that came up. And so I was a real shy kid, and, we came out of poverty. I mean, we had a good extended family, but the truth of the matter is, hey, we were on welfare and all that stuff. And I was still trying to find myself. So athletics became very important to me. And then, my reading of the civil rights movement, watching all the things that unfolded, the death of the president and everything was just happening in the 60s, Malcolm's death and all that, Malcolm's life and death. So I found myself leaning more towards Dr. King. So I kind of write about that using my early days, my college days, my high school days, college days, as an adult, figuring out what I wanted to do. Talked about the third world journalists and how much they meant to me in terms of the travel that I did with them and so many other things. So it's not a big book. It's just a small, snapshot of who I am and how I journeyed from one spot to the other. And so that's kind of what the book is all about.
Wonderful. Can we raise up a picture of that book right now? Chris. Okay, I guess well, all right, here we go. Here we go. Yes, ma'am. Book Spotlight, In Search for the Beloved Community. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And can we show how we raise up? I think you have another slide that will show exactly how folks can obtain the book. In Search for the Beloved Community, paperback, $12.95. So fantastic. Well, you can rest assured that I will get some of those books. Yes, indeed. Would love to try to.
Brother.
Yes, sir. Would love to try to.
You got one coming to you. I got one coming to you. I appreciate you putting me on the show here. And so I'll make sure that I sign it and get a copy to you.
Well, I'll talk with you after the show because I want more than a copy, and so I'll purchase some books for you. We still have our business down there, and I really appreciate seeing you and your wife Pat down at Lebanon Valley Market. But I would like to have some of them on the shelf.
Absolutely, happy to do so.
I'll talk with you after the show so we can do that. The beloved community. One thing you and I have a lot in common. I grew up, because I'm a transplant to Harrisburg, from Chester, Pennsylvania, and I grew up in poverty. Grew up in the public housing projects in the city of Chester, You attended at that time. When you were younger, you attended Westchester
Yes.
University, and you were
Mm-hmm.
one of our rivals. I attended Cheney University,
Uh-huh.
which was down the road. But thank God for those schools, because if it wasn't for Cheney University, I probably would have never gone to college in the first place. But you
Amen.
know,
I hear you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so I know that you and now also maybe we can talk just a little bit about your journey. So you've done so many things, and you continue to do so many things, and you
Mm.
continue to lift up the community and help others. And I appreciate one thing about you. I just have to say this on the air, and I've had friends that give me verbal support in terms of the little business that I have in sending art, but you've always given not only verbal but financial support. Sometimes
Mm.
people like to come down and just kind of say hi, how you doing? I'm not going to buy anything today. I just want to come down and say hi. Well, hi won't get it.
Yeah.
Get down. You always come down, and I can remember times when I was low and down on my back. You were always there and lifting up and was very, very, very supportive. And I want you to know I appreciate that. But if folks could hear something about your journey. You went to school at Westchester. Now, I also know that you were very athletic, and
Yeah, I was blessed to be able to run track and play basketball. I played football in the midget leagues and all that, and I like football, but my thing, I was drawn to basketball and track and field, and so I was no outstanding star. In fact, you guys at Chester, you guys had some mean brothers down there, boy. I'm
I,
talking about some really
yeah,
good
but
ones.
that's true. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
wasn't one of them, but that's true.
yeah, but I know Chester ball, man, and so I played for William Penn High here in Harrisburg, and we had a
Right.
darn good team. We had some great dudes who played Wes Baird, Tierney Williams, Martin Sykes. I can go on down the line, Harold Lyles. But I was just glad to be amongst the number, and it gave me a way out of just being shy and not knowing what I wanted to do in life and all that stuff, and even improve my academics because, quite frankly, I wasn't much of a student at first. And then once I
Either.
made the basketball team in my eighth grade year, I didn't make it my seventh grade year, and that motivated me. So I made it in the eighth grade year. And then, of course, the first thing the coach said is, you got to keep those grades up to be on the team. There was a
Yes,
certain
sir.
standard, and that motivated me. It's like, okay. And so once I was able to do a little something on the basketball court and the track and field and kind of find my way, I decided I wanted to go to college, and I was blessed enough to be accepted to Penn State and some other schools, Clark, Atlanta, and everything. And oddly enough, though, my goal was to go to either Morehouse or Howard. I
Right.
didn't even apply to Howard. I lost. I didn't get accepted to Morehouse, and I was really disappointed at that. But I got accepted to Clark, and Clark and Morehouse almost sat next to each other. I believe. I think they're real
They
close.
do. Yes, they
Yeah.
do. They do.
Uh-huh. And so I really made a mistake by not, well, I won't say a mistake. I enjoyed Westchester. I decided to go to Westchester as opposed to Penn State. Penn State gave me a full ride. I was blessed enough to get a scholarship. It was in a particular field and everything. And I
Wow.
went there and they honored me and all this kind of stuff. And I was able to sit on the desk with Joe Paterno and his wife and all that. And I just kept thinking, boy, this place is big. And so
Yeah.
my coach at the time, he said to me, he said, you will flourish at a state college. He said, I can see you going to, he said, but if you have any athletic, ambition, I would really encourage you to go to a state college as opposed to a big old Penn State. And I thought about it. And five guys, I'll never forget. It was Ronnie Young, who ended up being a pastor of from within the Heart Ministries here in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Uh, Tom Corbin, uh, you know, uh, Robert Brahanan, and Jim Smith, we called him. All of us are trackmen and basketball players, football players, and all that. So one day we got the pass to be able to go down to these schools, take off a day, and Ronnie Young drove, and we just went down to Philadelphia, drove all around to some of the schools.
Yeah.
Ronnie Young ended up going to Temple. I think Corbin went to Penn. Jim Smut went down to Jim Smith. He went down to Florida. He went in, I think, Florida State. And then Barbara Hand and I went to Westchester. And we all laughed at Westchester first. It was a small little country looking kind of little college,
Right.
but it was something about it. And the one thing that hit me was the track coach, followed me the whole year of my senior year. He courted me. And so I said to him, I said, let's stop at Westchester because this coach had been talking to me about coming down. And they had a guy named Lonnie Dalton. And I never forget
Okay.
him. Lonnie Dalton was an Black man and a big country boy. and this guy was high jumping almost the world record in high jump. Literally,
Jeez.
he was. I think the world record at that time was 7.5, and in practice he
Okay.
was doing 7.3. And so I was impressed with this guy. I said, man, look at this guy. So anyhow, we went to Westchester and really flourished from there. Barbara Hand and I and my roommate, a guy named Larry Dowdy from Chester, was my
Okay.
roommate. And then another good buddy from Chester was a guy. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna draw a blank. He's passed now. Leonard was his first name. Come on. But anyhow, he was from Chester. So that's how I got to know Chester, my roommate for 3 years, in fact. And we roomed together,
Yeah.
and then we both became RAs. And I used to go to Chester to play basketball and all that stuff. And just really appreciated Chester. And so anyhow, loved Westchester, went over to Cheney many times, pledged Alpha Phi Alpha. And
Oh,
that's a
I
great
didn't know you
time.
were Alpha man.
Oh, yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. Zeta Phi Beta. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Alpha. Well, that's absolutely great. I came to Harrisburg in 1966, and
Hmm.
we organized a group called the Youth for the Advancement of Black Students,
I
and
remember.
we were blessed to we had a young man by the name of David Patterson. David Patterson has come from a big family, John Patterson and the rest of them, and we were able to establish a relationship with Penn State was one, and we were able to get a number of scholarships for kids that were sent to Penn State. But I can remember very very. I remember you and your brother. You probably were both academics and also participatory in terms of activities. But you have also at this time become an institution in this town. And what I call an institution is that particularly with your raising up of the writers workshop, that you have helped to create many successful artists in that field and continue to do so. I was particularly, and I hope I'm not talking too much myself, but
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
I was really thrilled to go back to your celebration of Kwanzaa,
Mm,
and for me it was a blessing to see so many of the community. And I said, Reverend Gaskin is really important to this community. Some
mm,
people grow up in a town and leave and never return. And matter of fact, I would believe the majority of a lot of kids that do well academically as well go off and leave. But you recycled and came back home and
mm.
continue to contribute to the community.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's funny that you lift that up, Brother James. I'll never forget Larry Dowdy and I, we talked a lot about, what we would do after college and this and that. He ended up becoming a vice president, then he became assistant to the president of Westchester for years. They've actually
wow.
named a building after him now. He has the
Oh,
Lawrence Dowdy. Yeah, he has a Lawrence Dowdy, what is it called? Center, but it's a student center. And he also gives out the Dowdy scholarships, the Lawrence Dowdy scholarships and stuff. He's really done well. I'm real proud of that brother. And so anyhow, I had said I was going to come back to Harrisburg. I just always said that, and I got some offers, literally to work in student affairs. And sometimes I think to myself, man, what would my life have been like had I, pursued that? Because I enjoyed college life, I really did.
yeah,
And so, but I always was sort of community minded, and I wanted to, get back to Harrisburg for whatever reason. And one of the things that I discovered in college was my voice. And when I say that, we
yes,
created what's called the Root Society, and that's when we started doing poetry. And then we also created the Westchester State Gospel Choir and a couple other
yeah,
things. And I always say we because it was never just me doing anything. And
yeah,
so that was, we had like a community within the community. The Black community of Westchester was small compared to, of course, to the majority community, but we were mighty. We did a lot of things on that campus, and we're real proud of the things we established. And so when I created the little poetry thing, and I wasn't a great poet by any stretch of imagination, but it was my way of connecting, and also was my way of voicing my concerns and outrage and everything else about the civil rights movement and what was happening to us as a people. And so when I came back to Harrisburg, one of the first things I sought to do was to establish that. And God put me in touch with Mim Warden, who was running
okay,
what was called People Place. And at
mm,
that time, People Place was down on 2nd Street where City Hall is now, with the city council and all that. So that used to be the UGI building. And then we literally, that building was empty. And so she was able to somehow commandeer us using that place as her organization. And she said, yeah, you can do your poetry here. And so we literally sat right in the window
Okay.
and we on our poetry. And I never forget the first students that came down were like five or six white students from Bishop McDevitt High. And I wasn't
Wow.
thinking that. I was thinking of, the black kids and this and that. But when it came down, it just took off. And then after a while, everyone started coming in. And, it was just a good thing. So I've always enjoyed the writer's workshop. It was never about me. It was always about us just coming together and just having something to do, but also having a way of what we would always say, find our voice. And
Yes.
then when Claude Lewis and you've been there many times, and your daughter Maria, who was one of the finest poets anywhere. And so, it just kind of took off. And so it was always just a place where we established, not me, but we established the Writers' Workshop. Everyone who came was a part of the development of of that space, the Writers' Workshop.
Yeah, but we had to have a founder and a coordinator, and you certainly did that, and presented the opportunity for individuals to grow and become artists in their own right. A writer's workshop, and I can remember some of the talent that you used to bring in. You brought in some folks that would have never come to little old Harrisburg without your input. People like Sonia Sanchez, for example.
Oh yeah.
There's folks that you have brought to Harrisburg, and that have been a blessing, and a role model for others to follow, and you continue to do that. And I think Harrisburg is truly blessed to have one of its native sons that still cares about the beloved community, and to refer to our community as the beloved community. That says a lot. So, in spite of our issues, in spite of our problem, that somebody cares enough, and particularly somebody whose root or within the community cares enough to push on, and you continue to push on. But you've also been in broadcasting for a long time. For a
Yeah.
long, long time. You've done a lot of things and have traveled abroad. But tell us a little bit about your broadcasting career.
Well,
Listen.
first off, and we'll start with present day first. Got to give
Yes, sir.
hats off to Brother Chris. Always lift him up,
Yes, sir.
and to yourself as well, because sometimes you have to see. You just say, see a man, be a man. Sometimes you have to see it before you can actually, conceptualize it for yourself. So, Brother James, let's be honest. I mean, you've been on the scene. You created the Yabs. I remember sitting up there in Camp Curtin Y, and we had a meeting of the Youth Advancement for Black Students. I think it was called Yabs or something like that. And I
Yes, sir.
remember walking in there just thinking to myself, okay, let me see what this is all about. And that helped to change my life. I saw black men up there leading, you being one of them. And, that allowed us to believe that we could go to college and stand up for something. So, nothing happened. I remember Dan Howard. I don't know if you remember Dan
Oh,
Howard, right?
yes, yes, of course.
Sure. So I
Yeah,
see you on the
Dan was in
radio.
broadcasting also. Did a few things.
Absolutely. And Dan was the first one to really put me on television in terms of being on his show, and everything. And
Okay.
got a chance to go on and be interviewed just like I'm being interviewed now. And he brought me back any number of times. He had what was called Black Perspective. And then
Yeah, that's right.
when I made my little pitch to Channel 21, they were receptive to it because I was kind of ready, if you will. I mean, I went in and wasn't like I had never, been on TV and all that. And they gave me a chance. I mean, literally just said, okay. And so Sunday nights from 11 p.m. to 11:15 p.m., right before the news came on, they gave me a slot, and I would interview people from the African American community. And it was like perfect timing. I just one day was sitting at home, and I said, I'm going to do this. And I went up, knocked on the door. They didn't know me from a can of paint, and they kind of looked at me strange, but they said, okay, and they listened to me. It was perfect timing because they were looking to do more as far as the Black community was concerned. So I interviewed people and started developing my chops, if you will. And then when they decided to move beyond that show, because they wanted to do the news right at 11, they asked me if I'd do something called Kaleidoscope. And the first one was called In Touch. And then I did a slot. And Kaleidoscope was nothing more than a 5-minute segment that they would air every morning from 7 to 7:05, right before the national news came on. And I would interview someone from the community, just be a quick little 5 minutes interview. And they allowed, and I was working for the state. They'll literally bring the van down, pick me up at lunchtime. I would go and interview somebody or a couple people, and then they would run those, throughout the week. And it was just, and it just gave me an opportunity to, to grow, in that role. The other thing that happened to me was my sister-in-law, Jean Wilson, had
Okay.
a radio program at a WMSP Radio. Market Square Presbyterian Church had their own radio station.
Okay.
And so they asked her whether or not she'd be interested in, maybe doing something. So she was, but her time was kind of, so she said, well, I don't know if I can do it every week. So I said, I'd like to do something with you. And so she allowed me to do it. And then when she moved out of the area, she said, why don't you just take it over? So I did. So I had a radio show on every Saturday night from 7 to 10, I think it was. And
Wow.
I did a program, and it was WMSP Radio. And the thing that was really interesting about that is, for some reason, the signal was picked up in the area of prisons all throughout central Pennsylvania and beyond, all the way up to State College. So we
Wow.
became very popular with Joyce Braxton Coley followed me, and she had a beautiful program. And then we became very popular within the prison system. And then we
Okay.
started actually doing shout outs, to people that were in prison from their loved ones. So that's how it started happening. And then we just kept it rolling.
Yes, sir. But Jackson, you also, in terms of your journalism, did you travel abroad to
Yeah, one of the joys of my life was to, I had a college classmate by the name of Gwen Mckinney, who is now in a big time, she's done very well for herself down in Washington, D.C. Her father was Paul McKinney, a state representative, and her
Okay.
sister, she has a number of sisters, but the one sister is Diane McKinney Whetstone, the best-selling author out of Philadelphia. He wrote a number of books, and then also wrote a lot for Essence magazine and all that. And then another sister that she has that's doing great stuff. But anyhow, one day I happened to call Gwen. We had stayed in touch after college days, and just always talked about Black issues and stuff like that. And I saw a program. We were always watching Black programs and comparing notes. I was here in Harrisburg. She was in Philly. And so I called her one day and I said, I saw this sister on TV and she was dynamite. There's a guy by the name of Glenn Ford who just passed away last year. And Glenn had
Okay.
a program called, it wasn't Black Perspectives. It was, anyhow, it was a very popular program out in New York City. But he had to do something and he had her step in. This person, Leila McDowell, stepped in and did his show for about maybe 4 or 5 shows. And I remember saying to Gwen, I said, Gwen, there was a sister and she was outstanding, blah, blah, blah. She needs to have her own show. She said, oh, okay. She said, hold on a minute. And she hands the phone to Leila McDowell. I had no idea that she even knew Leila McDowell. And Leila McDowell was in her house, in her home there. They were planning to form an organization called the National Alliance of Third World Journalists. And we
All
just
right.
started talking. And I said, well, I'm interested in that. So we had this big meeting in Philadelphia at Gwen's place. And here, Mamiya Abu Jamal was sitting right next to me, Gwen
Oh,
McKinney,
wow.
just the heavyweights of Philadelphia there and DC. And then we start connecting all over the place. And we ended up with a group called the National Alliance of Third World Journalists. Our first trip was to Beirut, Lebanon. And we went
Wow.
there, stayed for a number of days. And we got a chance to meet Yasser Arafat, spent a lot
Mm.
of time with PLO. And it was interesting. It was very interesting. In fact, I just received, and one of my next projects is to write about that experience. I just received all of the literature that we compiled over the years. They sent it all to me. And I said I would, not take it on as a task to write, about those experiences. But from there, we also went to Grenada and we met Maurice Bishop. We actually had the last interview given by him before he was assassinated. Literally put up against the wall and just had his brains blown out. And so many of the
Wow.
people that we met that day, that experience, were from Grenada, but they had studied here in the United States. I mean,
Right.
Bishop was an attorney, and many of the people surrounding him were young African attorneys, and this and that, and all of them were shot and killed. We had pictures and everything. Within the next 2 weeks of us leaving Grenada, those people, we raided Grenada, and all those people were murdered. And then we also went to Cuba, and we met there, we got a chance to see Castro and all this, and met so many people in Cuba and do things. So it was great. And then they traveled to Russia. They've been everywhere. The Third World Journalists have done a lot. And our sole purpose was to, to see the news and understand behind the scenes. We know what we get here, but what else were we not hearing? And so the disinformation was the thing that we were trying to look at and trying to understand. How do we get so much disinformation? And, people like and I dare say it, like a Trump rises and becomes, the great leader that he is to some people. And I'm thinking, what? So there's so much that goes on in the world that we don't even know what's behind it or the movements that are taking place. And that was our purpose. And so, I could go on and on about that group. It was fantastic. Just to be and by the way, Leader McDowell currently comes on my program every first Thursday of the month. She does a program with me here on The Voice,
All right.
and she has been on every platform you could think of. She's a national correspondent, traveled all over the world, and now she does a lot in Hollywood. So she comes on every Thursday evening, first Thursday of the month, and does my program.
Uh, I appreciate your putting me on your program. That's how I got started with 17104 and was doing Sankofa. And that's been really, again, helping other folks. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm listening to your travels as an international journalist. I can remember when you mentioned Grenada. I remember when we invaded by we. I mean, I may change that we to the United States invaded that little small black country, and
Yeah.
like we got a habit of doing that. We also invaded Haiti.
Mhm.
I just don't understand. You said these people were also some of these individual leaders were murdered and lost their lives.
Oh, they're murdered. No, absolutely. Listen, I came back, and so we had just been there within 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
so they had me come on Channel 21. I'll never forget it. And the guy at the time, he's not there anymore, who interviewed me, introduced me as someone who belonged to, I forget the exact term he used, but it was like a subversive organization or a
Really?
communist organization, something crazy.
Oh God!
And I said, huh? And I had a program on Channel 21 at the time. And so it was interesting for him to say that. And I said, what would make you think that I would be a part of, whatever you just said? And said, why can't we just be journalists? The people that were part of the National Alliance of Third World Journalists, they worked for Newsweek, Time Magazine. I mean, they were. Gwen Mckinney lost her job. She now has one of the biggest PR firms in all of DC. In fact, a lot of people thought that the program that used to be on with, I can't call the name now, but the lady, she was behind the scenes doing all this stuff. And also she was dating the president, having an affair with the president. Remember a black woman? Yeah, I forget the show that it was on. It was on for a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of people thought that show was based on Gwen McKinney because that is the role that she plays in DC. She's behind a lot of political things that happen and stuff, and she's a mover and shaker. But anyhow, Gwen was working at that time. She's a major writer for Philadelphia Tribune, and
Okay.
they told her that they didn't want to cover anything concerning, Beirut and all those kind of places. And so when we came back from Beirut, they literally just took her job, and that was like a
Oh
blessing.
wow.
She just took right on off, and
Mm,
and
mm,
so
mm.
anyhow, it's interesting to see how people treated us, when we created that organization.
Well, they don't want the truth to get out, but it got out. Now, Channel 21, and you've been with Channel 21 for a whole lot of years. You're still at Channel 21.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have been a true blessing. Channel 21, when I first approached them, I told you how they just put me right on. And then we did the kaleidoscope for a long period of time. And then there was a law. And then when Pat and I, became a couple and I said, I think I have that itch again to, do something with 21 again. Well, we still had a program on called Life Esteem. It was coming on
Right.
Channel 20, which is the Harrisburg cable access program, but really it's more of a governmental access program. So we were one of the few programs that were on that wasn't part of the government. So it was they did a great job for us. Channel 20 really aired our program and aired it a lot. And then when we approached 21, they thought about it, and then all of a sudden they just called us and said, "Hey, let's do it." And so I got to give also hats off to the Harrisburg School District. They were literally the first ones to embrace Life Esteem, which is the name
Oh,
of the TV.
okay.
Yeah, they literally had
Great.
their Arts Magnet School tape the program, and then Channel 20 put it on. But it was the Arts Magnet School that actually taped the program and did all of the production for us. And then one year when they had to stop, Angie Smith, who has Smith Communications, the black-owned. At one point, I think she's the only black-owned PR company, and also she was producing all kinds of shows around here. She did our show for about a year, and then we had Channel 21 step up to the plate, and it's been 20-something years since we've been to Channel 21. Yeah.
Yes.
And the people they don't understand that our show is still on. By the way, it comes on every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. on Channel
Yeah.
21. Every Sunday
Oh,
morning. They keep
yeah.
on the same programs
I
right
do
now.
watch it.
Yeah, they keep
do
running.
watch it. And
The pandemic caused a lot of changes, Brother James.
yes, yes, sir. Yes, and yes, indeed. Uh, so, I mean, it seems to be the things that you are doing are intertwined, and one supports the other. And it's all about communication, and it's all about helping others and doing things in a very positive way. And the other thing is that you're a minister of the gospel.
Yep.
And there's no question about that. And your faith has been very important to you. I can remember you had, at one time, sort of an academy of sorts, where you were teaching uh,
Mhm.
ministers, and you past Pastor Monty. I understand you. The church name has changed recently. I understand. So
Mhm.
give us an idea of what your faith has meant to you in terms of all the other things that you've been doing.
So even in the little memoir that I wrote, In Search of the Beloved Community, I addressed that because, quite frankly, I grew up in a very Christian home, thanks to my grandmother, Rosabelle Robinson, who was just a saint as far as I'm concerned. She just was an incredible woman
All
who
right.
had an incredible story. I didn't know her story until I was older, how she had to take all of her siblings under her wings and at a very young age become the mother to them because of the injustice that was done once her mother and father passed away. There was an uncle apparently who came and just commandeered their property and really did them wrong. And she was the oldest of about, I don't know, I think 5 or 6 of them. And so at the age of 16, here she was, a mother, and she had to, fend for herself, and she did. And she met this wonderful gentleman by the name of Dennis Robinson, who happened to become her husband. And for years, they built a tremendous home, and they're a very Christian home. He was a
Yes.
hard working man. He worked 35 years at Bethlehem Steel, and they said never took one day off. And he got an award for that. He was quite something else. So anyhow, then to see Dr. Martin Luther King leading the charge of the civil rights movement, I could never leave the church. I grew up in the church, Lingo Temple Church of God in Christ, and no matter where I went, the church just kind of followed me. At least the idea of the church always followed me. I was never a goody two shoes or perfect by any means, but I could never go too far away from the teachings of the church without knowing whether or not I've crossed that line or done something I shouldn't do. The fact that I don't drink or smoke was not even connected to my, Christian faith or anything like that. I was looking at the people around me who were alcoholics and people who
Right.
was, drinking and smoking and stuff, and that affected me more than anything. But it kind of went in hand with what I believed, a Christian ought to be as well. So I say all that to say that even when I went to college, I thought to myself, okay, where's the church down here in Westchester? And it felt funny not to have church. And thanks be to God, one night we had a talent show. It was, just a talent show for the Black Student Union. And there was this young lady who I knew she was truly into the church. Her name was Barbara Ward. And so
Okay.
Barbara Ward, sang that night. And she came out and there was this piano and she sat down and we were all like, what just happened? This woman could not only play, but she could sing. And she was like she sounded like Aretha Franklin or something. She could sing. And it was like,
Right.
what? Well, she's part of the Ward family, the gospel, the Ward
Oh,
family.
right. Clara Ward. Yeah.
Yeah, Claire Ward and them. Yeah, so I had no, and her mom was quite a force, a big time minister. And right now, she is, people who know her as Bishop Barbara Ward Farmer. She married a guy named Larry Farmer. And so,
Okay.
anyhow, that night transformed my life because I remember hearing Barbara and saying, oh, something just happened here. It was incredible. So I
Mm.
remember in the next couple of days, I said to everybody, I said, we're going to create a gospel choir here. We need to have a gospel choir. And so I was in the gym. That's all we did was play ball. And all of a sudden, Barbara walked in, and up top, we had this little ledge up there, like a little balcony, whatever. And I saw her and I said, Barbara, we're going to create a gospel choir. I want you to be the director. And she said, okay, just like that. And I was just talking, just being, and next thing you know, we had an 80-member choir.
Mm.
At Westchester
That's
State,
big.
got Westchester State. Look, like every black student on campus said, we're going to do it. And we came out in gold shirts and black pants.
Mm,
And
mm, mm.
we went to a little cafe thing right there on campus. And we said, we want to sing. And everyone came, black, white, everybody. And it took off. And then we started traveling. And I never forget Mr. Ted Butcher, financial director, said, first off, how proud he was, And he said, I want to make sure that you guys can, he said, you call yourself the Westchester State Gospel Choir. I said, you represent the whole college. He said, this is incredible, man. So he did everything he could to support us with a bus, transportation. We were able to get robes and all that kind of, it was just wonderful. And so
That's
anyhow,
excellent.
that was our church. We were able to have church on campus and to really begin to think about, those things. And so we started meeting and all that. And through our group called the Black Root Society, we wrote poetry, but we also talked about what it meant to live, a Christian life. So, coming out of that, I was convinced that I had to do something. When I came back to Harrisburg, my aunt was a minister, and she was the one that ushered me into ministry by introducing me to the leadership of the Church of God in Christ. And I was able to become an assistant pastor with Faith Chapel, with I think was the name of her church, Church of God in Christ. And I
Okay.
was able to become ordained through the Church of God in Christ. And then from there, other things begin to happen. But I've been in the ministry, I've been ordained since 1989.
Wow.
I was an elder in the Presbyterian church before then, by the way. I was an elder in the Presbyterian church, yeah, at Capital Presbyterian. Love Capital Presbyterian. Really great church.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember you having a good relationship with Capital. So I didn't know you were there in the ministry. That's
Yeah, I went
great.
to Capital for probably about 9 to 10 years.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Nathan Waters, Dr. Ophelia Johnson, on down the line. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, Paul Waters and the rest of
yeah. In fact, I served under three ministers there. I'm pretty sure, but Calvin Favors
them.
and
Okay.
Michael Eubanks, they were two of the pastors that I served under. And I know there's another one too. But anyhow, yeah. So yeah, Capital will always be a part of my DNA. I enjoy Capital.
But I see a common thread with your faith, your broadcasting skills, and even your poetry. Because poetry is, for me, more of a spiritual kind of thing. Some folks see it as competitive, but I see it as kind of a spiritual thing, and works out very well with faith as I see it. Yes, sir.
Mhm. But I've always saw Brother James, no matter where you were, I saw you when you were at other churches, whatever. Anytime you're in the community, you always were a fighter, standing up for things. You created things, you have your poetry. Your daughter, Maria, has followed in your footsteps. And then you've always been involved in African art and everything, but you've always presented it in a high way. So, just hats off to you because I tell you, no, we, uh, don't always say it out loud. And sometimes, you just tend to forget. There are a lot of people that I looked up to, men in
Yes,
particular,
sir.
who were doers. And you were one of them. And also, I think with Belgium Baxter, I think with just so many people who,
Oh, Mr. Baxter. Oh my
oh
God, I
man,
remember him. He was
Brother
quite a guy.
Nate, yeah, quite a, he was, and it's interesting. Sometimes when you come back and you grew up in this area like I did, they still see you as a little boy or something. It's like,
Yeah,
and so, you got to deal with that. But at the same time, always mad respect for people who were out there on the forefront doing. And it's never easy. There's always the ups and the downs and, the naysayers and this and that. But when you just do it over time, that means that you're really committed to it. And you've always been committed, to our people. And so this hats off to you for doing this, for having your show, for all the things that you do, for having the shop. Even when people weren't coming to support you, you still kept it open. And that's what you call, that's what you call commitment. And so I appreciate that. And we will be coming back down to your store again. We don't come down just to look, we come down to support. So we'll be down.
I
Absolutely.
certain, we certainly appreciate that. I can recall uh, I came back to came to Harrisburg, was brought here by Governor Robert P. Casey.
Mhm.
I was here prior during the early '60s, and quite honestly, I worked in community action, and also I was hired by Governor Schaefer then, which is a Republican. But I came back under the auspices in 1987 of Rob Casey, And one of the persons that I met was the director of the 101 program at the time, a man
Mhm.
by the name of Dr. Nathaniel Gadsden. Uh, I don't know if you recall, but I had you to speak at some of the Black History programs that we put on
Yeah.
uh, back in those times. And I was just going through some of my old things, and I saw some announcements for some of those programs that we did. Oh my God, how many years ago is that? Over 30 years ago? A
Oh
long
man, how about that? Wow.
long
Mm.
time. And then, but I really appreciated it because that was a tremendous help. And we had a little choir going then at the time. Uh,
Mhm.
George Toby Young
Oh
uh,
yeah.
was a part of it. But I think, like I said, I kept thinking about that raising up that program that you do every year. Every year you have a program, now during the Christmas holiday, Kwanzaa,
Mhm.
and the thing, and all of the people that I saw and that were there, some of them old friends that I hadn't seen in years and years and years, and I said these folks are keeping this community together,
Oh
continuing
yeah.
to do things to bring us together. And I want to express my appreciation. I really appreciate you coming on and thank you with us.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate you having me. I mean, listen, I really do, and I really appreciate you coming to Kwanzaa, and reconnecting and everything. And it was a great turnout. And I got to give hats off to Manigault, and I'm trying to think of her full name here, but she did something that was just incredible. Grew up here in Harrisburg, and I know you know the Manigault family well.
Oh
You know,
my
they were
goodness! Don't let
absolutely
me go off with the man calls. I love him
yeah.
to death.
Yes, indeed. And boy, what is her? I'm sorry. I wish I could call her name right now. But anyhow, she
Okay,
knows who
yeah.
she is. Most people do. She gave away Christmas gifts, and I'm talking about big bags of stuff to I think almost like 100 families, and they were
Oh
families, not
wow.
individuals. Yeah. So a lot of those people that came in that day came in because she had called me and she wanted to know if we could partner together. She was doing this here in Harrisburg, but she was doing it at their old church and everything. And so I said, let's do it. And so we just made that space work. Hats off to Matt Granderson, who's the pastor, and also, oh boy, it's two pastors over there. I'm sorry. And I'm just, trying to rush through it here real quick. But anyhow, those two pastors opened up their doors to us, Crossroads Church. And they had just opened up Crossroads Church within the last couple of months.
Okay. Oh
And
wow.
so we were the first event being held there. And we were hoping
Wow.
that, yeah, hoping that it would work and everything. And we went in with faith, and I'm telling you, we packed it out. It was a wonderful. And we had the last 3 or 4 years, we were at the Harrisburg Mall, which had a massive space for us. Great turnout. It was really fun. But having that smaller space with all those people crammed, it seemed more community-like to me. And so
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah. I understand what you're saying.
yeah, it
Yes,
was
yeah.
it was nice. I love that kind of stuff. So so what I'm saying is a lot of people played a role in making that happen. We're the catalyst, my wife and I, because Pat Thompson, who started it all with Hack,
Oh
she's
yeah, Pat. Yes, indeed. Is she still
yes,
around?
oh yeah, she's still around doing
Oh,
well.
good.
In fact, she would have been there, but because of COVID and everything, she decided that may not be the best thing to do. But every year she would come in and we would, honor her and make sure people understood that we always had Kwanzaa here in Harrisburg as long as
Yeah.
I've been, but it was always on a sort of small scale. And then Hack stepped up and had this massive
Oh yeah.
Saturday, you know, pre-Kwanzaa program. And when she couldn't do it anymore, we took it over at Hack, and then Hack remodeled, so it wasn't the best place to have it. And now we have it wherever we can have it, and we're hoping maybe to have it again at Crossroads Church, but we'll see. But it is a community event, man. Hats off to Andrea Fulton. She does the fashion show. To Lark Daniels, who does the African dance for us, and
Andrea Fulton.
so many
Yes,
other
indeed.
people. Yeah, it was great. Lee Waskowski, who brings in the drummers, African drummers and dancers. Good
Believe
people,
something. Now she's been with you a long time.
long
She's
time. Yeah,
Lee
she's great.
used to do poetry at the writers' workshop, and
She's
now
an excellent
she
poet.
studied an African dance, and now she can, boy, she can do her thing. But I
Yes,
got
she
to
does.
say something about Manigault. I just have to say something because one of the dearest and closest friends in my life was a gentleman we used to call Joe Smooth. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Joe Smooth was John Manigault,
All right.
and he was a bartender
Mm-hmm.
up on Sixth Street at Charles Bar, and but he also was a policeman and security guard and worked with us. And of course, the Manigault specials. The
Hmm.
Manigault special was a special thing. And to see this young lady who is a Manigault doing those positive things, and Derek Kwanzaa just, I had, and she came over and I had a chance to talk to her. That's
Hmm.
all of that was just fantastic. And hey, as long as I'm on the planet, I'm going to try to get there. As long
Oh
as I'm
man,
and able to
yeah.
move.
Well, that's what we need. We need people like yourself who, because you bring legacy and also, you bring stability to it all. And we need to see our elders and our youth kind of mixing and things like that.
Yeah,
Amanda Manigault, I think that's her name, Amanda Manigault.
yeah,
Let me see here. Yep, I believe that's her.
right.
Yep, that's her,
Yeah,
Amanda. Yep, it was excellent. So thank you, sister. Yes,
and
indeed.
and I found out that Joe Smooth had just died a few days earlier and had been just
Yeah,
in service,
I
and
know
I
that.
didn't know about it, so that hurt
Yeah.
me a little bit because I just didn't know. Joe was just close to me all through the years, but I'm just glad to see the legacy because Joe was the same kind of person. He would have festivals, he would give away food, he would do all kinds of things, and to see
Hmm.
that one of his, I think it's his niece, she's his niece, doing the same thing was just absolutely wonderful, and you presenting the platform
Hmm.
for folks to do that, and the encouragement for folks to do that,
Oh
which
yeah.
means that your tentacles stretch out far more than you that's apparent. Well, that's
Well, I
great.
felt really good. Yesterday, I received a call just yesterday, and these are two brothers I don't know, and they're out of Maryland. And I asked them, I said, "Well, how did you, find me?" And they said, "Oh, well, we try to do our due diligence by looking around and seeing who's doing what in the cities, blah blah blah." One is a retired police officer, and I forget what the other brothers, but these brothers are on fire for our community, and they're doing some wonderful work around stopping violence and do some
Okay,
artistic stuff, whatever. So they sent me some stuff. They had some songs that they put together and everything. And I want to bring them into Harrisburg. Just talking to them, I know that they would be the right fit for the things. So we're trying to figure out how to, get them here. But it was nice to know that they found me, and they thought that okay,
yeah,
because
absolutely. And see,
you know,
that's one thing about communication, and this
mhm,
17104 because these shows go they're online. They go throughout the world. I
okay,
have in-laws in Africa that watch
yeah,
17104. My
all right,
son-in-law,
mhm,
who you married, you performed a ceremony between him and
mhm,
Maria.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
he was home for a few months. He got stuck there because of the virus, and he watched 17104 while he was there in
okay,
Senegal.
all right.
So,
Hey,
so
that's beautiful. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, indeed. And I'm gonna look that up too because
Mhm.
you performing ceremonies for two of my daughters.
About that.
Yeah, for
That's something.
Keisha,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and for Maria, and that's extremely important to them, and important to me also. Uh,
Yeah, well, I've always enjoyed your family. You guys, first off, you have a beautiful home. That's one thing I'll say. But also, you've always been true to your African roots and to, the culture and what you contribute to the community. And
okay.
so, listen, we figure out all kinds of ways, not to be together. But when you can figure out ways to be together, that's what's the
Thank
most
you.
important thing. That's what God, wants us to do. And
Well
so, I'm
said.
glad that we've met good people. And the one thing I'll say, I mean, meeting Brother Chris, I don't know how, we came about and then you meet Chris. But Chris has been an anchor in my life now for the last how many years? And so you've been an anchor. Like guys like Claude Lewis, great poet. So many different people, man, coming. So the thing that I've discovered over the years is that it is the beloved community. It's not just
Yes,
me, whatever I have. We thrive when we understand that we benefit from the grace of God and the mercy of God, and also the beloved community who is trying to get things done. And so that's what I'm hoping to just continue to do. I had an uncle once who said to me before he transitioned, and I was, in my 60s, and he said, "Well, you do things that young people do." And I said, "Okay." And then I wasn't sure what he was saying. He said, "No, I mean that is common." He said, "In other words, you still have vitality." He said, "And you're getting things done." He said, "A lot of guys your age, they just kind of lay back now or they're just done, He said, "But I see you doing things, man." He said, "Just keep on doing it." And I appreciate him saying that because he
yes,
was always an encourager, and everything. And I thought, okay, appreciate that. And when he first started doing things as a young man, I said, well, now, wait a minute. When you're young, you do young things, but when you're old, you're supposed to put away those childish things. He didn't mean
yeah,
it like that. Just simply
yeah.
saying you stand current, and that's a good thing, and keep on going. And so I'll just say that to anybody. I see where we have people have opened up art galleries now and this and that, and so it's a good thing. And I'll try to support any and everybody I can. Even the African stuff that I'm wearing comes from a sister who has a shop down on down on Third Street. But the
Yeah, I
first
heard
person,
about it. I haven't been in there.
yeah, she's a nice sister from Cameroon. You need to meet
Okay.
her, and then she needs to
I
meet you. In
sure
fact,
do.
yeah, you definitely you need to hook up because she could turn you on some things. You could turn her on some things as well. But I think the first persons I ever bought some stuff from was you. I think the first person
Okay.
stuff I bought came from your shops. When I think about that,
Yes.
yeah. So good stuff.
You still have your large African collection?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. We had a church building at one time, and so we had it all up. And when we joined this particular denomination, which is Redeemed Christian Church of God,
Uh-huh.
they're mostly from the continent of Africa. Almost all of them come. Most of them come from Nigeria, but they come from all over Africa. And
Sure.
every month when they celebrate Women's History Month, they have a huge parade of flags, and it's a spectacular to see. And they have every country in Africa represented,
Wow.
plus the diaspora. So they have America, South America, whatever countries in South America. But this year they also honored Ukraine, and they're sending huge
Okay.
donations to Ukraine, which was powerful. So it's Living Springs Redeemed Church of God, and it's Pastor Tunde and his wife Yenka, and they're doing tremendous work over there. But oddly enough, and it's a good thing in a sense because they don't emphasize the African art. They want to do, stay Christian, and they want everyone to feel that. But they do know that there's a place for the art. So one of the things that we've done is we have beautiful decorations, but it's mostly African art in the Christian form, if you know what I'm saying. So
Sure.
Christ in the manger, that. But all the artwork that I have, I took a lot of that down. And so I am looking to establish a place where we can have a big display of our art and also a cultural center. And so I'm gonna take my time with that, but it's gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
If
And I mentioned
anything
one
I
thing
can do to
too.
help, I wanted to see something like that too. I'll be
Oh
very
yeah, I
happy to
know.
help
Oh
with
yeah. Oh yeah.
that. I have,
You,
and I
you know,
have some people who can get artifacts and all at a much lower price because the folks, the Africans up in New York, they want a pretty high price for what they get, but we know how to do it. So I love to work with you on something like that. Yeah,
sounds good. We can
we
make that
could
happen.
we could use that.
Yeah,
We
we
had
do. We
talked.
need it. Yeah, our young people need to see it.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
quick little story for you. I have a person by the name of Diana Dill. I want to mention her, Adele,
Okay,
Pastor Diana Dell, and white female, lives maybe 30, 40 minutes away from Harrisburg here. And so
okay,
anyhow, her mother transitioned. Her mother was a missionary in Nigeria for years and an author. She wrote a number of books, and she transitioned, and I had a chance to interface with her. And so she said to me, she said, I have all this African art and artifacts and beautiful cloth and everything else. She said, and I want to give it away. I don't want it, to be so. She said, because my mother really worked hard, but and really treasured this. She said, but no one in her family really sort of wants it. So she said, I don't want to. She said, but I want to just give it. She said, do you know anybody? So I told her I would take it as my mission to literally just give it to people that would appreciate it. So I've been able to do that. I gave the cloth to, the Living Springs, the leadership there,
yeah,
and then we had a wonderful play, and the cast did a play called "They Live in You," which honored our ancestors. And
yes,
so I was able to give the cast members a lot of the baskets that she gave me, this
yeah,
kind of thing. And then some of the women who come to one of our programs, we gave them all of the necklaces and stuff. And
sure,
so, and I've taken pictures of them and everything. So that was quite a blessing to be able to give this stuff away and find people that really appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely. That's a rarity. And
Hmm.
sometimes people buy the stuff, and after a while, I don't know if they don't understand the value of it, but they do want to give it away.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
other folks go, I got some things of person who had passed, and so that their children wanted to get things away. I think that's really great. But I'd like to see a museum. I'd like to see an African and African American museum in Harrisburg. We had tried to do something like that years and years ago. Jackie Penn was
yeah.
someone who was really interested in that, and I'm not sure what happened to Jackie. I hope she's okay.
Me too.
Uh, but we and people like John Scott and Caleb Jackson and some were involved in that venture. I like to see that happen. It really Steve Reed lifted up that, but it seemed like the administration had kind of lost interest after Steve Reed. As a matter of fact, they did everything to kill it. You
They
know,
really did. Yeah, they really did. I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
Now, some people have problems and issues with Steve, but Steve also did some positive things that museum and the fire museum, the things that he did. So, uh, and I appreciate that. And he used to do an African enrichment program, as you know, every year that we.
Yeah.
But I really would like to see an African American museum, and I think we also have some local things to say,
Hmm.
historical things to say that people understand. Camp Curtin, for example,
Hmm.
things that have to do with the Civil War and the American Revolution that took place right here in the city of Harrisburg, we're the state's capital, but we're more than that. A lot of things that have taken place in this community, and
Absolutely.
you helped to make that happen, in this community. I- yeah. One other thing I was thinking about, my mind kind of swaying from back and forth. I'm thinking about Billy Gray,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Billy Gray,
Mhm.
who was a great guy, and I think that you kind of didn't you do some things with Billy back in the day, Fawcett Street Y, or am I
Oh, we
wrong?
all did. Yeah, he was the director there, and he was everywhere. Of course, Mr. Gray was, he was like the man. He was the leader. So I mean, many times we interfaced on many different, programs, whatever. But nothing special. I mean, I was just, someone benefiting from his leadership, and that kind of thing. But yeah, he and I served in a lot of programs together. He came down to the Writers' Workshop, and we honored him one night, and it was a great
Yes.
thing. Really
I
nice.
thought
We had a
so.
great. Yeah, that's when we used to be the workshop was one of the first residential companies of the Whitaker Center, and I wrote
Right.
the opening poem to the Whitaker Center called Homecoming, and the official poem. And so that was quite a blessing to be able to do that. But anyhow, yeah, we honored Billy Gray, and he felt honored, and that was a great day, you know,
Well,
great
yeah,
night.
I ran a community center on Market Street, and I had a boxing club, and
Oh
Billy Gray was a boxer.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, Billy Gray. As a matter of fact, I understand he was in Sugar Ray Robinson's camp years and years ago. But Billy Gray was something I just have to mention. Something, you didn't do any boxing, Nate.
Oh, I
I
had
thought
one
you got
fight.
in the ring a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I did. I got into West Bear. I think West Bear put me down about 8 times, and I decided at that time. I said, "Now wait a minute. You can only go down three. What's this eight? Every time those big old 16-ounce blows would come at boom. But no, West and I boxed one time for the PAL, and I remember
Yeah,
I think
Al. Yeah, that's
after
what it
all
was.
that,
Al.
yeah, Police Athletic League, yeah,
Yeah, I
because
thought I
Bobby
remember saying
Lewis.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby called me and pulled me aside and said one day, he said, yeah, and he just took me and recruited me. I'm like, wait a minute, where am I going? We go down here to Middletown somewhere and had a big boxing match. And I'm like, my brother was quite a boxer though. Nate
Yeah,
boxed for
well,
pounds.
maybe it's your brother I'm thinking about, but I remember asking
Yeah,
because I said I had a boxing team, and I used to have my boys boxing. And I had boys from off the hill that would box.
that might have been Nate because Nate ended up boxing for pound a number of times, and he was on that same card I was on that night, and he we laughed at me anyhow. I'll never forget that. But I'm like, yeah, I don't think boxing's my thing. I like watching it, but I ain't getting up in there.
And Nate was
Yeah.
quite a writer also.
Who's that? My brother?
Yeah, I mean your brother.
Oh, absolutely. Nate, in fact, went on and got his master's degree at Penn State in English literature and all that. So Nate's a very fine writer, and he's written even for Hollywood. A lot of people don't know that, but Nate's written for Hollywood, different projects in Hollywood. Wrote a lot of stuff for the guy that played Brubman on the Martin Show, Reggie Ballard. Is quite an actor and do a lot of things. Well, him and Nate were collaborators on a lot of stuff. And he had Reggie Ballard come here and do a couple of his plays, Brubman. But anyhow, Nate also was connected to a couple other projects. But he has his own plays, and he has a big play coming up. I think it's in.
Really?
Oh yeah, Nate's done a
Okay.
number. He has a number of books out too. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I know that. I was going you say you had one coming up.
Yeah, he does. He
Right.
has one coming up in. Oh, it's either in. April or May, but anyhow, he did a thing called Shake Shop, and it was really a musical. And so, but he's done a number of plays. He had a little place down in Lancaster. There was a restaurant down there, and he used to do a little theater there. And I'm telling you, pack it out,
Oh
and
wow, my
they
goodness!
really well done. Yeah, and they was
I've
good
seen
writers.
some of his plays over the
Yeah, he
years.
sold
Yes,
those
I have.
talent.
And
Mm-hmm.
quite a guy, quite a
Yeah,
personality, quite a
yeah.
guy. Right in the
Mm-hmm.
same family. It must be in the genes.
Hey man, he's really good.
Oh,
After he's a real technical writer. Yeah, good guy. Mm-hmm.
yes, indeed. Yes, yes, indeed. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so Nate, what anything anything else coming up shortly that you're involved in and we need to look forward to?
We do have a number of projects, but one I want to lift up is the Juneteenth project. We're going to do a
Okay.
mass. We had a wonderful collaboration with the Artistic Empowerment Centers with Clarissa. I forget her full name, but anyhow, she's the author of the play called "They Live in You," out of Washington D.C. Her and her husband went to Howard
Uh-huh.
University. They met our buddy Nicole Wilkerson, and Nicole Wilkerson's right here from Harrisburg, and she's a graduate of Howard as well. But so coming up in June, on June the 19th, we're going to have at State Museum a free program. It'll be the Writers Workshop presenting, their poetry and all. There's the flyer right there.
Juneteenth, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. We
June
also have another
19th.
flyer. Yeah, we have another flyer that's for the same event that's going to talk about what the Artistic Empowerment Center is going to offer. And they're offering a play called The N-Word. And it'll be literally about how
Wow.
we as the African American community look at that word today, and whether or not there's going to be the pros and the cons. And then we're going to have a panel discussion afterwards to talk about the N word. So that's going to all take place on June 19th. It's a Sunday from 1 until 4 at the State Museum, and it's all free. We hope to pack the place out.
Fantastic, fantastic. We're right down to the end of the show. Can we lift up once again your book?
Yes, we do.
Chris, can we show that again?
And by the way, Brother James, we are going to have vendors on June the 19th. I don't know if you're interested in vending, but we
Say
will
that
have
again?
vendors. We're going to have vendors on June the 19th at the
Oh,
State Museum.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Let me know. All right.
Okay.
Book spotlight. Okay, if you take a look at this. In search of the beloved community. I love that title. Oh Lord,
Thank
I love that title. God bless you, my brother. God
God
bless
bless
you
you.
for
Thank you so
all
much.
the good that you do, and you're still doing. Here we go again. The search for the beloved community. Reverend Dr. Nathaniel Gaskin. Folks, get a copy of this book. How can they get a copy of it? Is it going to be on Amazon or
It's on
how
Amazon. Yep. You can look up my name or look up the title, and there it is. And you can also contact me, 717-608-2312. I'll make sure you
all
get
right.
a copy.
Okay, and I will be in touch with you because I like to get several copies. I can sell some down in Lebanon. Those folks down there could use it. All right,
Appreciate you, brother.
all
God
right.
bless you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you. And thank you, my friends, for listening into the Richard James Show. And thank you, Chris Thomas, because Chris Thomas, in a sense, kind of put us together here. I started out in 17104 doing Sankofa with Reverend Dr. Nathaniel Gasson. And thank God for the work that he continues to do and has done with others. So I will say so long, and thank you very again, and so long, Dr. Gaston. Take care.
Hello. Thank you again, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. Our African and our African American programs are set up to educate you on what's going on in this world. We thank you for taking out the time to listen. Let us hear from you sometime also. So this is your neighbor and your friend signing off. Until I see you again next week and hear from you again next week. So long. God bless.